Marshal Marie Esme Patrice Maurice, Count of MacMahon, Duke of Magenta, was a French general and politician, with the distinction of Marshal of France. He served as Chief of State of France from 1873 to 1875 and as the second President of the Third Republic, from 1875 to 1879. He won national renown and the presidency on the basis of his military actions in the war against the Germans. MacMahon was a devout conservative Catholic, a traditionalist who despised socialism and strongly distrusted the secular Republicans. He took very seriously his duty as the neutral guardian of the Constitution and rejected suggestions of a monarchist coup d'etat. He also refused to meet with Gambetta, the leader of the Republicans. He moved for a parliamentary system in which the Assembly selected the ruling government of the Third Republic, but he also insisted on an upper chamber. He later dissolved the Chamber of Deputies, resulting in public outrage and Republican electoral victory. MacMahon soon resigned and retired to private life. Biography. Early life. Patrice de MacMahon was born in Sully, in the département of Saône-et-Loire. He was the 16th of 17 children of a family already in the French nobility by King Louis XV, and the family in France had decidedly royalist politics. His ancestors were part of the Dalgeciais and were lords of Corcubassin in Ireland. After losing much of the land in the Cromwellian confiscations, a branch moved to Limerick for a time before settling in France during the reign of King William III. Because of the support of the deposed King James II, they applied for French citizenship in 1749. Patrice de MacMahon was educated at the Lycée Louis-le-Grand and at the Academy of Saint-Cyr, graduating in 1827. Military career. He served in the army as aide-de-camp to General Achard, and went to the campaign in Algiers in 1830. He stayed in Algeria from 1834 to 1854, and was wounded during an assault on Constantine in 1837. Designated regimental commander in 2nd Foreign Regiment of the Foreign Legion in 1843. He was promoted to divisional general in 1852. In the Crimean War, he distinguished himself in the Battle of Malakoff at Sevastopol, during which he reputedly uttered the famous quotation now attributed to him, "JY sweet, JY rest." He was offered the top French army post after the war but declined, preferring to return to Algeria. He was appointed to the French Senate in 1856. He fought in the Second Italian War of Independence as commander of the Second Corps. He secured the French victory at Magenta and rose to the rank of Marshal de France while in the field. He was later created Duke of Magenta by Napoleon III as a result. In the Franco-Prussian War, MacMahon commanded the Iron Fifth French Corps on the Rhine Army's southern line. On the 4th of August 1870, the Prussian Third Army attacked the southern line, and immediately took the border city of Wissembourg. They quickly moved on to capture the city of Worth 2 days later. After less than a week of fighting, the entire French Rhine Army's southern line could not withstand the Prussian attacks and retreated west, further into French territory. The Prussians were relentless. The Prussian Third Army captured town after town, while the French 1st and 5th Corps hastily retreated southwest to Chalon-sur-Marne, out of the way of the advancing Prussians, while the Prussians drove west. MacMahon led the 120,000-strong remnants of the French Rhine Army, reformed as the Army of Chalons, with Napoleon III. They marched north-northeast from Chalons-sur-Marne, in an attempt to relieve the besieged army at Metz over 130 kilometers to the east, but the Prussian Third Army marched 325 kilometers and intercepted the French army along the Meuse River. After 3 days of fighting, MacMahon's troops fell back to Sedan, where they were encircled, in part due to MacMahon's indecision. MacMahon was wounded on the 31st of August, and gave up his command. After the Battle of Sedan, Napoleon III surrendered the main French army on the 2nd of September, and MacMahon was taken prisoner. Leader in the Third Republic, France surrendered to the Prussians in January 1871, and formed a new interim government based in Versailles. Radicals in Paris rejected this government and formed the Paris Commune. In May 1871, MacMahon led the troops of the Versailles government against the Commune, in the bitter fighting of what was later called La Semaine Sanglante. The government forces under MacMahon crushed the Commune, with many communards being executed. He was not blamed for the repression, but instead became the hero of the hour for the right. In May 1873, MacMahon was elected President of the French Republic, with the support of monarchists and conservatives in the National Assembly. Only one vote was cast against him. The Assembly fixed MacMahon's term of office at 7 years. He declared in a speech delivered on the 4th of February 1874 that he would know how to make the legally established order of things respected for 7 years. Preferring to remain above party politics, he insisted that, rather than taking part in the proceedings which, in January and February 1875, led to the passage of the fundamental laws finally establishing the French Third Republic as the legal government of France. And yet MacMahon wrote in his still unpublished memoirs, by family tradition and by the sentiments towards the royal house which were instilled in me by my early education, I could not be anything but a legitimist. Quote, he felt some repugnance, too, in forming, in 1876, the de Foray and the Jules Simon cabinets, in which the Republican element was represented. German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck sought to contain and destabilize France, and to weaken the right-wing elements that wanted revenge against Germany. Bismarck attempted to promote republicanism in France by strategically and ideologically isolating MacMahon's clerical monarchist supporters. Bismarck's containment policy almost got out of hand in 1875 during the War-in-Sight crisis. There was a war scare in Germany and France when the German press reported that influential Germans, alarmed by France's rapid recovery from defeat in 1871 and its rearmaments program, were talking of launching the preventive attack on France. Britain and Russia made it clear that they would not tolerate such aggression. Bismarck did not seek war but the unexpected crisis forced him to take into consideration the alarm that his aggressive policies, plus Germany's fast-growing power, were causing among its neighbors. In May 1877, the bishops of Poitiers, Nîmes, and Nevers issued episcopal charges recommending the case of the captive Pope Pius IX sympathetic consideration by the French government. On the 4th of May, the left responded with a resolution in the Chambre des Députés calling on the government to repress ultramontane manifestations. 12 days later, MacMahon controversially provoked the 16th of May 1877 crisis by demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Simon, a Republican. Simon resigned, later claiming to have averted a coup d'état by MacMahon, who replaced him with the Orléanist Duc de Broglie. He then persuaded the Senate to dissolve the chamber on 16 May 1877. During the next 5 months, MacMahon traveled through the country campaigning for the Conservatives, protesting at the same time that he did not wish to overturn the Republic. However, the elections of 14 October resulted in a majority of 120 for the left. The de Broglie ministry resigned on 19 November, and MacMahon formed a left-wing cabinet under de Ferre. He retained his office until 1878, so as to allow the Exposition Universelle to take place in a period of political peace. After the senatorial elections of 5 January 1879, having brought another victory to the left, MacMahon resigned on 30 January. He was succeeded by Jules Vy. His presidency may be summarized thus. On the one hand, he allowed the Republic to establish itself. On the other hand, so far as his lawful prerogatives permitted, he restrained the political advance of secular parties hostile to the Catholic Church. Convinced that the triumph of radicalism would be to the detriment of the nation, MacMahon headed a regime that was mildly repressive toward the left. Newspapers were prosecuted. Senior officials were removed if they were suspected of support for republicanism. Critical pamphlets were suppressed while the government circulated its own propaganda. The proprietors of meeting places were advised not to allow meetings of critics of the regime. On the other hand, he gave no support to a coup d'état by monarchists. MacMahon truly believed that the National Assembly should rule France and not the president. Retirement. The last 14 years of his life were spent in retirement, removed from political concerns. In his voluntary retirement he carried with him the esteem of all parties. Jules Simon, who did not love him, and whom he did not love, afterwards called him the Duke, died at the Château de la Forest at Montcresson, Loire, in 1893. He was buried, with national honors, in the crypt of Les Invalides. Honors and awards: Ordre National de la Légion d'Honneur, Knight Officer Commander, Grand Officer Grand Croix bestowed in a military title, Médaille Militaire in 1857. Order of the Golden Fleece, Knight in 1875. Order of the Bath, Grand Croix. Order of the Black Eagle, Grand Croix. Wounded 4 times. In 1837, at the Siege of Constantine, a bullet pierced his uniform. In 1840, a bullet pierced his saber through the rib cage. In 1857 in a battle, and also on September 1, 1870 at Sedan. Quotes. Showing his faith in the Foreign Legion during the Battle of Magenta. The Legion is here. It's in the bag. During the siege of Sevastopol in the Crimean War, MacMahon led an assault by French troops against the Malakoff redoubt. MacMahon captured the Malakoff, but was urged to withdraw rather than be crushed by imminent Russian counterattacks. He refused, replying that J.Y. suis. J.Y. rest. MacMahon's troops held the Malakoff, and Sevastopol soon fell. MacMahon's line became widely quoted as an expression of defiance. P.G. Wodehouse's character Bertie Wooster used it in response to pressure from his valet Jeeves to shave off his new moustache. Gallery.